Let every nation know.
Conservative isn't just a word. It's a movement, a way of life.
And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
The Conservative Roundtable discusses the conservative movement at the local, state, and national level. Here's your host, Ralph Larigo, chairman of the Erie County Conservative Party on 1270 The Patriot.
Okay, welcome back. And now we have the infamous Roger Stone. Now, Roger, before I put you on, I want to give our people some background. Well, you and I have known each other for roughly 20 years at this point. I did some work for you almost 20 years ago now. I want to tell people about who you are. Any one of us who've been involved in politics for any length of time certainly know who you are. But you've been involved in 9 presidential campaigns. And I understand that at the age of 8, this is what I've read now, at the age of 8 in 1960 in elementary school, to help JFK, you stated that you remember going through the cafeteria line and telling every kid that Nixon was in favor of school on Saturdays. Is that the case?
That is a true story. Ralph, first of all, it's a great honor to be with you. It's great to be here at 1270 AM, WUSU. I'm very excited about what you're doing with The Patriot, and I'm very honored that you carry my show.
We do.
I think it's important to bring the conservative message to the people of Western New York, so I'm delighted to be with you.
This is how this is how our message gets across. This is, you can't do it in the newspapers. Talk radio is where we're able to communicate with people and let them know the truth.
And it's still very, very powerful. So I grew up in northern Westchester in New York, and in a very, conservative area in northern Westchester. It's no longer conservative, but it was very Republican in those days. And my local elementary school had a mock election for president between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. And I wasn't, all that political at that point. I really wasn't galvanized into being a conservative until I was about 12 years old. I read Barry Goldwater's book, Conscience of a Conservative, and that really changed my life in every way. But in 1960, because my family were Catholics and because, let's face it, John Kennedy had better hair than Richard Nixon, I was a Kennedy man. So I knew we had this mock election coming up, so I stood at the end of the line, the cafeteria line, and as each kid came through, I told them, if Nixon is elected, we're going to have school on Saturdays. And the next day, John Kennedy won the mock election. It was kind of a surprise in the Republican suburban area. But I must be honest with you, that's the first time I ever used disinformation, and as you know, I've never used it since.
No, not you, Roger, not you. So, Roger, so that's the age of 8. That's an amazing story. And then at the age of 12, you get religion. I was a JFK person because, he was so charismatic. It swayed a lot of us at that point in time. But we got grounded after that. But then 1972, you end up working for the Nixon campaign.
Well, it's actually, I would say 2 things. First of all, today, I must say, I have a new appreciation for John Kennedy. He was an ardent anti-communist. He favored a silverback dollar. He had a deep distrust of the CIA and our intelligence agencies. And indeed, they lied to him about the Bay of Pigs. The Bay of Pigs invasion of Cuba, I think many conservatives have always gotten this wrong. The plan that John Kennedy approved called for and included 29 Panamanian-flagged but Cuban-piloted fighter jets that were supposed to be covering the men
I can't hear you.
who charged the beach. And unbeknownst to JFK, General Charles Cable, the number 2 man in the CIA, canceled the air cover the night before the invasion. Now, because our intelligence services leaked, Castro knew when our men were coming. He knew where our men were coming. They were being cut to shreds on the beach by Castro's sharpshooters. And it was at that point that Curtis LeMay, the head of the Air Force, went to John Kennedy and said, there's only one way to save the day here, Mr. President. We've got to send in the Air Force. Kennedy had approved the Bay of Pigs invasion on the condition that it looked like an indigenous Cuban uprising rather than a U.S. invasion. Sending in the Air Force would have shown our hand, so he refused. But the Bay of Pigs plan failed because the CIA undermined John Kennedy. If John Kennedy were alive today, he'd be a Republican.
No question. I totally agree with that.
If he were alive today and he lived in Erie County, he'd probably be a member of the Conservative Party.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Roger, we have a caller that has a question for you. So, Chris, go right ahead.
Hi, how are you? My name is Dr. Chris Pablatos. I'm in Chicago. I'm a practicing independent physician. And more than a question, I just want to commend this administration, President Trump, and the Department of Health and Human Services for what they're doing for health care. Not only from the MAHA movement to make people healthier, but one thing that the Department of Health and Human Services is finally doing under the orders of the President, they have 3 major initiatives that I think will be totally changing healthcare as it exists today. They're pushing for evidence-based medicine for patients. They're empowering patients to become true consumers of healthcare, and they're fostering competition through interoperability and price transparency, which will open up innovation and make the patient a much more intelligent consumer to lower prices of healthcare and improve quality. I've been on the board of the Independent Physicians Association of America for 17 years, and we're finally seeing an administration that's doing something. And if the president was here, I'd let them know that we're supporting him because we're pushing to form a national network of independent physicians to support private practice of medicine, which will promote competition against the large health systems, which are buying up all the physician practices. So I love what the administration's doing. I commend the president. He's taken a totally free market approach to health care, which is the only way we could improve quality, lower costs, and maintain innovation in the industry.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much for that. Roger, I'm sure you saw Bobby Kennedy yesterday and how that went. And Bobby Kennedy stood up for what he believes in.
I'm a big fan of Robert Kennedy. I was deeply involved in the negotiations to bring about the Trump-Kennedy alliance. I knew Bobby Kennedy. We were friendly prior to his running for president as a Democrat even, and then as an independent, because we were both active in the health freedom movement. And I'm a big admirer of him. What I really like about him is I have never seen him in any high-pressure situation or in any interview where he makes an assertion that he can't back up with a scientific study or some authoritative source. This guy never, ever shoots from the hip, unlike those who just insist, the COVID-19 vaccination is safe and effective because we say it is. So I think he is got huge guts, enormous energy. I've become very close to his sister-in-law, Amaryllis Fox, who managed his campaign, now over as she used to be with the CIA. He's now over as a deputy to Tulsi Gabbard at the Office of Defense Intelligence. Amaryllis Fox, conceivably the single most capable, maybe most intelligent woman I've ever met. And again, she's had the same odyssey that we have, where old-fashioned liberals, people who believe in capitalism and free enterprise and a strong national defense and God, have joined Republicans to form a new political coalition in this country. it's a mistake to think in terms of Republicans and Democrats. That's not the division in the country. The division in the country today is between people who believe in common sense and the U.S. Constitution and people who believe in war, censorship, and whatever Wall Street wants.
I totally agree with you. Look, just as an aside, I got to meet Bobby Kennedy in 2021. So I was fighting for this drug ivermectin, and Bobby Kennedy called me out of the blue and was asking me a number of questions and called a number of times. I didn't believe at that time that I was talking to the real Bobby Kennedy, but because of that voice, I went and looked it up, and obviously I realized who I was talking to. And he and I have had a great relationship since 2021. I actually brought him to Buffalo April of last year. He's an amazing individual. He's committed, as you said. This is a very religious man. He's maligned terribly in the press, but he wants to, he wants to help us, and there's no question that he's going to.
You cannot underestimate the power of Big Pharma in Washington. I'm in Washington. I met with the president yesterday. I want to report to your listeners, he is alive and well.
That's great. That's great.
He is not only alive, but he feels great. He looks great. He's energized. The one positive result, maybe there were two, one or two positive results of what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania. One, he very clearly understands that he is protected by the armor of God. He has a certain serenity about him that I've never seen before. Look, he was always a very, very confident guy. That's not what I'm talking about. But there's a surety, you can see it in his eyes. He knows he is doing God's work. He knows his life was spared for this moment, for this fight. And then, Ralph, the other thing is a sense of urgency. He doesn't want it to happen. He wants it to happen today.
Yeah.
Can we turn this country around in 4 short years before the communists try yet again to take control? And I must tell you, he was in great spirits. I told him that I was going to be, he said, what's your day look like tomorrow? He wanted me to go out to the golf club. I said, I can't go out to the golf club, Mr. President. There's a new station in Buffalo that's gone conservative, 1270 AM, WSU. They have a new show called The Conservative Roundtable I'm going to be on. And he said to me, please give my regards to all my friends in Western New York.
Well, that's wonderful. I know you actually met Trump in 1979. So you've got quite a long-term relationship with the man, right?
50 years. He hates it when I say that because he says it makes us both sound old. But I saw as early as 1988 that he had the stature and the size and the independence and the courage to be president. Now, I was a Jack Kemp supporter in 1988. I want to be very clear. My conscience is clear. I never supported anybody named Bush, ever. They were never conservatives. They were crony capitalists. Ronald Reagan, probably without any question, one of our greatest presidents.
No question.
Reagan's biggest mistake
up to now,
George H.W. Bush. I'd give the big three. I'm sorry, but Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, and Donald Trump. Don't ask me to choose because I think I'd have to go with Trump because the comeback Nixon's comeback was great, let's face it, but Trump's comeback was against all odds. This was an act of God. We had divine intervention. This country was saved at the very last minute. And the pundits and all the experts were telling us it's impossible, it's never been done. I think it is interesting that the only president to serve one term, lose re-election in a disputed re-election, and return to the White House was a New Yorker.
That's
Grover Cleveland, the last of the conservative Democrats.
That's exactly right. Look, we have to take a short break here. We're going to come back and a lot more with Roger Stone. Hold on, Roger. All right, everyone, welcome back. We obviously have a great show tonight. with Roger Stone. We have a caller, but before the caller, I want to let everyone know if they want to call in and talk to Roger Stone, the call-in number is 716-500-1270. 716-500-1270. You can call in. Now we have John from Elma. John, you have a question for Roger?
Yes. Good morning, Ralph, and another great show. And I'm honored to talk to the distinguished guest you have, Mr. Roger Stone. I've got 2 or 3 questions that I would like to ask him.
Kevin,
and I'll
one of those
first one. Mr. Stone, from your chair, what does the Republican Party look like post President Trump? That's number 1. Number 2, will the MAGNA movement get weaker or stronger? And then my last question is, who is the best candidate to succeed Trump? And I'll listen to your response, and I'll get off the line.
Thank you, John.
That's it.
Go ahead, Roger.
Some excellent questions there. First of all, I think the Republican Party will never go back to being the party of Wall Street, the party of the billionaires, the party of the country club, the party of the elites. Those days are over. The Republican Party is now the party of working class Americans. We are the party of middle America. We're the party of traditional values. The old Democrat Party, the Democrat Party of John Kennedy and Harry Truman, the party that had an anti-communist component, that party's dead. That party's been taken over by a clique of radical Marxists. Chuck Schumer is now considered too conservative for the Democrat Party. What does that tell you?
It's incredible.
If AOC challenges him in the primary, she will beat him, which is in itself. So, as far as the Republican Party is concerned, on the one hand, in our party we're traditionalists. We are great believers in hegemony. This is why we nominated Richard Nixon after 8 years as vice president under Dwight Eisenhower. And by the way, Eisenhower doesn't get enough credit. He was one of the greatest presidents in history. Last time we had a surplus, we had a balanced budget in this country, it was under Dwight Eisenhower. A military man who kept saying no to the defense contractors in the military when they wanted to go into deficit spending. We had unprecedented peace and prosperity under Ike. I was born in 1952 when he was elected president. Whenever people say, who is the greatest president in your lifetime? Well, there's 4, but I have to include Eisenhower. Now, to go to your question, there is no question that J.D. Vance, as a sitting and loyal vice president, has a huge leg up for the nomination if he chooses to run, which he will. I had a nice meeting with him yesterday. I am very impressed with him. I didn't get to know him well during the campaign. We met very briefly, but I've met with him more extensively since then. Yes, there is no doubt at one point, like some in the Republican Party, he had his reservations about Donald Trump, but there is no question that he's both a true believer and that he is 100% loyal to this president. And because he understands the role of vice president, he is very, very effective behind the scenes. He often doesn't get credit for many of the important things that he does. Robert Kennedy would never have been confirmed by the U.S. Senate without the behind-the-scenes actions of J.D. Vance. Tulsi Gabbard, who I think is your other standout today as a future presidential candidate. Again, a Democrat who left her party, or more precisely, her party left her when it became the party of war, censorship, and big business. She would never have been confirmed without the behind-the-scenes work by J.D. Vance. Kash Patel at the FBI, very good friend of mine, very good man, struggling to get control of a deeply corrupted bureaucracy that is riddled with bad guys, who he is systematically rooting out, would never have been confirmed without the behind-the-scenes work by J.D. Vance. So Vance, I think, has a huge leg up. It's the nature of our party. Our party is so ritualistic. We nominated George Bush after Ronald Reagan. George H.W. Bush, who must go down in history as one of our worst presidents. You may remember this, Ralph. Read my lips. No
Yep,
new
I
taxes.
certainly remember it.
And the first thing he did was raise taxes. And his son, who who not only spent like a drunken sailor, he gave drunken sailors a bad name. He spent so much. So the Bushes talk a good game. They're not conservatives. They were never conservatives. They were elitist crypto. I would say they were elitist capitalists interested in making money for their friends and themselves. So I like Vance a lot. I'm increasingly impressed with him. I know how effective he is behind the scenes, but a smart vice president doesn't try to take credit. A smart vice president doesn't try to upstage the boss, just as Nixon did not upstage Eisenhower, just as Bush did not upstage Reagan. They have a great chemistry, so I would give him the leg up. Marco Rubio is a guy who's my senator. Come a long way. I was not always a Marco Rubio fan. He was aligned with the Bush wing of the party. He's a little bit too much of a neocon for me. I have new respect for him. He's doing an extraordinary job, particularly in fighting communism in this hemisphere, in Venezuela, in Cuba. Watch Honduras very carefully. That's the next big trouble spot, as well as Guatemala. The communists are on the move in this hemisphere. They have one big fat problem: Donald J. Trump and Marco Rubio. We are going to fight the commies in this hemisphere. It's really narco-Marxism because they're deeply involved in the drug trade. So I have new respect for Marco Rubio, but in all honesty, when I saw the Secretary of State a month ago, we had a very good meeting. He tells me he does not see himself running for public office again.
Wow. Okay, so look, Roger, I want to go back to 1994 when I was going to Trump Tower to speak with Donald Trump about running for governor against Andrew Cuomo. And so myself, Nick Langworthy, and your friend Michael Caputo, the three of us traveled to Trump Tower, and I sat across the desk from Donald Trump to talk to him about being able to run for governor. It was 2004, excuse me. But you told me he wasn't going to run for governor. He was going to run for president. I got the years mixed up. It's 2014.
Yes.
It was 2014. Right. I'm sorry. But you told me then that, look, he's not going to run for governor. He is going to run for president. And obviously you were right.
Michael Caputo, who is one of my oldest and closest friends, I don't think I spoke to him for 6 months over that meeting because I was so angry about it.
Yeah.
I thought I was unable to attend because I had gotten a detached retina in a boxing match. I boxed a guy much younger than me, and although I was wearing the protective head stuff and, the gear you wear, but... Yeah. I got a detached retina. It was the end of my boxing career, I'm afraid to say. But so I couldn't attend the meeting because once they retach your retina, you can't fly because of the pressure on the airplane. So I wasn't able to be at the meeting because I had intended to go there and make the case that the job of governor of New York, first of all, is too small for Donald Trump. Secondarily, it would have been a much, much tougher race than people think. Nothing if not a vicious fighter. He had millions of dollars in the bank, and I'm sorry, but New York State does not have a single conservative newspaper. Not one.
Yep.
Don't say the New York Post, because the New York Post is populist. They're not conservative, they're populist, which means they sometimes have a good editorial viewpoint, but not always. But beyond that, liberal media dominates the landscape. That's why I think WUSW is so important. That's why I think what you're doing there at 1270 a.m. is so important. But I was against him making that race. When I was with him back in October, the president and I were having dinner with Elon Musk, and he retold the story. He said, Elon, a bunch of guys came to me from Western New York, and they wanted me to run for governor. And I was actually seriously thinking about it, and it was Roger Stone who told me, that job's too small for you. If you want to run for president, run for president. But be nice to the guys who come to see you, because you're going to need them when you run for president.
He was very, very congenial. And then after that meeting, which was just a meeting where I sat across the desk from Donald Trump, a great personality, actually. But after that meeting, the three of us went and we met with 30-some county chairs from around New York State who wanted him to run. And we met in another conference room. He spoke with everybody. He dodged the question, but in such a way that at the end of that meeting, everybody wanted their picture with Donald Trump. Everybody was enamored with Donald Trump. He really did an excellent job.
Well, look, the one thing you can't learn is charisma. Trump has, like JFK, like Ronald Reagan, he has a personal magnetism. This ability to fill the room, to dominate the room. And it's more than just being tall. There's a certain personal magnetism, a certain charisma that makes a difference in this age of mass communication. So while George H.W. Bush never had it, Ronald Reagan had it in spades.
Yes, he did.
And Trump has it. It is. I saw it in 1988. 1988, before it was clear that Jack Kemp wanted to run, that he was willing to challenge Bush. And I love Jack Kemp. He was a great man. I understand my friend Russ Cugino's in the studio with you there.
Yes, he is.
How you doing, Roger? It's an honor to hear you again.
We were comrades in arms in that campaign. But before Jack had made the decision, and there was a lot of pressure on him not to run because, it's Bush's turn, that whole mentality of the Republican Party. I had talked to Trump about running. We did an exploratory trip to New Hampshire, and it was the first time I'd ever seen Trump within a political context, and I saw the Trump magic. And you know what he said in his speech?
What?
We need better trade deals. We're being taken to the cleaners in these trade deals. Now, this is pre-GATT. This is pre-NAFTA. But he says, we send social workers to negotiate for us. They send their meanest and smartest business people. We got to stop being patsies when it comes to our trade tariff negotiations. The other thing he said was, I'm sick of our NATO partners getting a free ride. Why don't they pay for their own defense? Why are we paying for their defense? Sure, we'll pay our share, but why aren't they paying their share? And the third thing he said was, our military is being allowed to atrophy. We need to rebuild our military strength because, and this is key, when we are strong, nobody will screw with us. This is the peace through strength attitude of Dwight Eisenhower and Ronald Reagan and now Donald Trump. It's not going around the world looking for wars to get into where our inherent national interests are not clear. The concept of peace through strength has returned to the White House under Donald Trump.
We need to take another break, but then I want to get back. I want to talk about the Make America Great Again and where that phrase first came about. So we'll take the break and then come back. Thank you, Roger. Okay, well, Roger, this is certainly one of the most interesting shows that I've done so far. Russ Cugino has a question for you.
First, I don't know if you heard me when I said thank you very much for all you've done for not only the conservative movement, but for America. And a lot of the people listening may not understand how much you've done actually in Western New York, and how well you know Western New York, and all you did for Jack Kemp, and very much appreciated. By the way, Ed Rutkowski, former county executive who you know, and I and a few others are putting together a Jack Kemp memorial, not a memorial, but actually an exhibit that will be Buffalo-based and Buffalo-located. And I have a feeling there's going to be a section in it on Roger Stone. So I'll be in touch with you on that later. But congratulations, and I really admire all you've done, Roger. You're a great man, and you continue to do great things.
So, Roger,
Listen,
Go ahead.
When you dedicate that, I'd be happy to come to Buffalo for the dedication. Ed Rutkowski, another great man, a great public servant. I would love to come up for that. Look, I have very fond memories of New York politics. I remember, I was a strong supporter of Tom Golisano.
Yes.
And I was a very strong supporter of Carl Palladino. Carl Palladino was Donald Trump before Donald Trump was Donald Trump.
There you go.
And Carl Palladino's campaign for governor collapsed in New York City when he said in a speech, Sheldon Silver is a crook who belongs in jail. Dean Skelos, the Senate Majority Leader, is a crook who belongs in jail. And Andrew Cuomo is a shameless womanizer. Now, who turned out to be right? Sheldon Silver went to prison for massive corruption. So did Dean Skelos. And Andrew Cuomo was driven for the governor's office because of his inappropriate actions with women. So Carl Palladino was a sage. He was a prophet. He was right about all of it. And frankly, he would have been a great governor.
So, look, I want to tell people about your role in the Carl Palladino race because I was intimately, obviously, familiar with it. You and I were in New York a number of times. But the fact of the matter is that Carl Palladino won the primary in Erie County by 93%, something never done before, something never will be done again. And this is because of you. This is because of how you were able to orchestrate where the money went, where we needed to be strong. I was just amazed. I was with you on primary night at the Elegant Square building, waiting for the results, when we were all shocked with how well. Look, we knew you had run a great campaign. We knew that Carl had a great opportunity, but no one expected 93% out of Erie County or the major win that you orchestrated over Rick Lazio.
Well, first of all, we used to refer to him as Congressman Rick Lazio. He was your typical believe-in-nothing establishment Republican. And it's very sad. I mean, I've got a lot of good friends in the New York Republican Party, obviously, but there are too many grifters. There are too many who are anxious to make deals. There are too many who now are forced to say they love Donald Trump because Trump is popular with the rank-and-file Republican voters, but in their hearts of hearts, that's not who they wanted for president. And people forget this, but very briefly coming out of the primary, Carl Palladino, who is one of the finest gentlemen, one of the greatest patriots I've ever known. The smears against him have really outraged me. He is a truly great man with enormous courage who has always put his money where his mouth is. He briefly led Andrew Cuomo coming out of the primary in the polls. It wasn't until the fake news media apparatus in New York decided to destroy him. And again, what were his comments that caused his campaign to collapse? He said Speaker Sheldon Silver was a crook. He was right. He said the Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos was a crook. He was right. They both went to jail. He said that Andrew Cuomo was a shameless womanizer. So let's look back at it in retrospect. Carl Palladino, like Donald Trump, was right about everything.
I spoke with Carl yesterday. I called him and told him you were going to be on, so I'm sure he's listening. And he only had, obviously, the highest praise for you, Roger.
Hey, Roger, Bob Davis here. You were just talking about New York politics, and, there is no conservative newspaper in the state. How do you see the landscape for the Republican Party going forward in next year's gubernatorial race?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. I'm a big fan of Elise Stefanik. I always have been. I think she's great. She's got a lot of guts. There are not many congressmen or congresspeople who will go out and file formal complaints against judges when judges act politically. So when you had these left-wing, Tammany, corrupt judges in New York trying to stop Donald Trump's comeback, Elise Stefanik had the courage to go file formal complaints against them and to hit them in public. Very few members of Congress would have the kind of courage it takes to do that. So I am a strong supporter of Elise Stefanik. I think she's going to run for governor. I hope she runs for governor. I'm going to strongly support her if she runs for governor. I have to be candid about you. The New York Conservative Party needs a revitalization. There will be county committee primaries in virtually every downstate county and the New York City counties. I'm not sure about the island because there are some good conservatives in Staten Island and so on. And I think highly of a number of the upstate Conservative Party leaders. But in all honesty, the state party chairman, Jerry Kassar, is a fish-faced enemy of the people. He believes in nothing but lining his own pockets. And he's going to be challenged at the county level. There are going to be county committee primaries in many, many, many counties. So the party will stop being a patronage pit for certain individuals who wish to line their pockets, and will go back to standing for what it was originally founded for. Sorry, Ralph, but I got to tell you what I really think.
You were never shy about telling people what you really think. Look, I want to get back to Elise in her race, so I think this is a great opportunity. Lee Zeldin showed us the way. And Elise, being a woman, to be able to run against Kathy Hochul, and Kathy Hochul being where she is in terms of her favorability, I think we have an excellent chance this time. And if you're going to help, I think that is only going to help us get over the top and make sure that we do have a successful campaign.
I think she's going to be a great candidate. The real issue here, and there are two, I don't think Kathy Hochul can even win renomination. When it appeared that we would have a special election for Elise Stefanik's seat, which in the end was fortunately, I think, turned off, because when you have a special election, there's no Republican primary, and the party leaders get to choose the candidates. Now, the average Republican county chairman in that district, if their IQ was 1 point lower, you'd have to water them like a plant. These are the dumbest group of people I have ever met in my entire life. They wanted to nominate a state senator, a guy named Dan Steck. He was an interesting guy. He co-sponsored the legislation that extended the statute of limitations for sexual assault so that E. Jean Carroll could sue Donald Trump in that fraudulent case, which is going to get overturned on appeal. That's who they wanted to nominate. And in all honesty, the polls showed that because of the dynamic in the country, where Democrats right now are very highly energized. They hate the fact that Trump is keeping his campaign. And our people, Republicans, conservatives, libertarians, free thinkers, many of our people think all of our problems are solved because Donald Trump was elected, and that's not the case. So Democrats are highly motivated. Republicans are a little too fat and happy right now, and I think there's a high probability that we would have lost that seat. So I give huge credit to Elise Stefanik, who put the country ahead of her own ambition, who stepped aside from her nomination as UN ambassador, where she would have been great, in order to make sure that the Democrats didn't win that seat in a fluke special election. So I think she's a great woman. I think she's a great leader. I think she has a lot of courage. I think she's going to be a great candidate.
So let's talk about the accomplishments of Trump in this now first 9 months. Tell me what you think. I want to talk about immigration, deportation, the big beautiful bill, Washington, D.C., tariffs. Let's start with immigration. Tell me what you think.
Well, the president's doing an amazing job. Tom Homan is a personal friend of mine. He's a great guy. He has a lot of courage, and he's very tough. We continue to be hampered by these left-wing activist judges who have no regard for the law, the Constitution, the rules, procedure. They don't care about any of that. They just do whatever they want. It's time for the House Republicans to start moving articles of impeachment against some of these federal judges. And yes, send them subpoenas and make them come up to the Hill and explain why they're doing what they're doing. I've looked at the Constitution very carefully, Ralph. There is no place that says the judiciary is higher than the legislative branch. So send these judges a subpoena, and when they don't show up, send the sergeant at arms to go pick them up and bring them up. And if they refuse to testify, then they can be treated like Peter Navarro was treated. They can be jailed. See, I'm tired of the two-tier justice system where Hillary Clinton gets to destroy 33,000 emails that are under subpoena, but she pays no penalty. But the FBI raids my home at 6 o'clock in the morning and perp walks my wife out of the house in handcuffs, even though there is no Russian collusion for me to lie to about when I testified voluntarily to Congress. These days have got to stop, in my view.
You're absolutely right.
So look, I'm very familiar with what happened to you. We were all pulling for and trying to help you. I was with Mike Caputo, who was married to the cause. You went through a terrible situation there, and thank God Trump was able to take care of it.
Look, I can never forget we had a great fundraiser for my legal defense fund there in Buffalo, put together by Carl Palladino and you and many of my many other friends who were there. I was sustained by 65,000 individual donors. Ralph, my wife and I, we lost everything. We lost our home. We lost our insurance.
I know.
We lost our savings. I lost my car. And because the judge put an unconstitutional gag order on me, I was not allowed to speak or talk, which is how I make a living. I wasn't allowed to defend myself. This is not America. And then when I appealed that ruling by the trial judge to the district appeals court, they sat on it for 8 months. They waited until 2 days before my trial, and then they argued that my motion was not ripe for a decision because I had not yet asked the judge who placed the gag order on me to lift it, which of course she never would have done.
So Roger, we're up against a hard break, so I'm going to need to text you, call you. I need to know when we can do this again. Talk to you soon.
Yeah, I would love to come back because I want to talk about Letitia James.
I know you do. I want you as soon as possible.
Big Fish is going to the big house.